We are a little over 1 day away from the epic reveal of Path of Exile 3.24, and while I've read and even cooked up some crazy Necropolis theories, the one I'm about to lay out is by far the craziest. But as we all know, Grinding Gear Games is the company who let us build passive skill trees on our passive skill tree. They enabled us to completely shape how we would like to play during endgame, and they even have an entire fishing mechanic implemented into the game that wipes your memory every time you interact with it. Don't ask me how I know that. It's classified. The point being, nothing pitched by us mere Path of Exile players is outside the realm of possibility. We all know the PoE developers are on another plane of existence. Necropolis will assuredly showcase that. My fellow exiles, welcome. I am Try. Let's talk some Path of Exile 1. I'm keen that 3.24 is a love letter to the era of 3.0, as we might be entering a new era of Path of Exile with Path of Exile 1 and Path of Exile 2. And Grinding Gear Games is the type of company who would like to do a tremendous send-off, just as they did back during the 2.0 era with Legacy League. Let me front-load the idea, then we can study this older league. Necropolis leeches off all the amazing ideas of the 3.0 era and creates a compelling, blood-rich whole. It will interact with beloved last leagues, and it will send PoE 1 into its next era of expansions swimmingly. Maybe it's even the last 3.0 age expansion. If that sounds compelling, keep watching, exiles. Legacy League's idea was simple. GGG thought, we have a big launch coming up after this league. We have little time to design lots of brand new assets, but we would like to still have a league that players will love. The result was Legacy, a league which allowed Path of Exile players to access every league mechanic from the 2.0 era using a suite of keys. You might even realize these are quite similar to Scarabs, and they are, but this was a novel idea at the time. The reception to Legacy League was overwhelmingly positive. Path of Exile players loved the concept and did not mind the reused assets. The idea was good and the execution was good, therefore it was enjoyable. Okay, alright, let's go. Necropolis then will be Legacy League on steroids. Hear me out. We've had a long series of 3.0 patches, from Bestiary to Synthesis and Scourge to Trial of the Ancestors. It has been quite the path traveled. The Necropolis League will be home for all these historic leagues. Much like the Forbidden Sanctum, the Necropolis shall be a dungeon. More like Delve, it shall be near infinite. We begin at the start of each dungeon, and we can explore sets of wings comprised of rooms. We'll talk more about the story behind how this is happening, as well as the room and wing rewards later. Every time we enter a new wing, we roll a random set of leagues to pull into the wing. Every room will be carved out from some sort of historic league, with some other unexpected placements in there, similar to Lake of Calandra. Additionally, each league room has a common occurrence and a rare occurrence. I imagine the UI to be quite similar to what we had with Synthesis too, obviously a bit cleaned up and modernized. Here are several ideas I had off the top of my head for rooms. Chamber of Stupid Beasts. Contains either 6 packs of animals, 3 yellow beasts, and 1 red beast, or an apparition of Einhar and 2 red beasts. The Mirrored Pool. Contains 10 packs of monsters, 3 random map bosses, and a Calandra jewelry reflection bench, or a portal to a fully populated Lake of Calandra with multiple rare islands. Abyssal Lair. Contains an Abyssal Spire and 2 Abyssal Cracks, or between 1 and 3 Abyssal Liches. The Immortal Altar. Contains 10 Immortal Syndicate members and 1 to 4 random Safe House rewards, or Uber Katarina, who has a 100% chance to drop a Veiled Chaos Orb. The possibilities are endless, especially if you change up the room occurrences too. Additionally, how might you receive attempts to go into the Necropolis? I think Grinding Gear Games will go big. Completing any existing league mechanic gives you credit toward a track, allowing you to hop right into Necropolis and complete a set number of rooms. However, I think you all might be interested in what we might get specifically from my version of Necropolis. Long have we waited for my guest rewards of Necropolis League, Atlas Jewels. Just like our character's passive skill tree, we need some jewel sockets and jewels to fill out our atlas. Additionally, I posit with the addition of jewels, Grinding Gear Games will remove sextants from the game entirely. Farewell awakened and elevated sextants. Instead, some of their modifiers and a whole host of new ones will be added to the pool of Atlas Jewel mods. Obviously, some of them will need to get nerfed and others will be removed entirely, but trading off the need to manage sextants constantly will take away one of the only pains related to mapping. Atlas Jewels will be a permanent, and in addition to normal magic and rare ones you can roll, there will be a suite of unique ones as well. Some of you longtime PoE players might be thinking, isn't this just Watchstones? Well, if grinding gear games choose to do what they did with Watchstones, then yes, hundreds of modifiers with tiny percentage increases and a select few of actually good affixes. However, that was when sextants existed. That was when the Atlas passive skill tree didn't exist. I reckon now they're willing to part ways with sextants entirely and roll everything into permanent stamps on the Atlas passive skill tree. A few leagues ago, I dabbled in these Atlas jewels being limited use just like sextants, but I now don't think that's the way to go. This does appear to be Path of Exile 3.24 Quality of Life League after all. This reward set and item ad is totally feasible, maybe more so than my proposed league mechanic and its story. No good Path of Exile league lacks a compelling story, and the last few have been certified bangers. I expect Necropolis will continue this trend and not disappoint. Therefore, here's my theory on what we'll see with the release of 3.24's story patch. The Templars and the Eternal Empire are not afraid of experimenting and looking into the dark arts, especially if they go rogue. Just ask Lycia, a former Templar who went all up into meshing with some of the most horrifying beings on Rayclast. The dude we end up working with, the man who chants some ritual in the chamber, I bet he's conjuring up something. Some ghosts of the past, some otherworldly apparitional versions of past events. That is what populates the Necropolis. This man seeks to learn from the many former events in our Rayclast and alternate Rayclasts, as we learned existed in Scourgely thanks to the Last to Die. The Necropolis is the staging ground for these conjured, spectral realities. I suspect the monsters we fight and the areas we enter will be eerie with an odd glow about them, as everything is not actually real at first, just figments of imagination brought into existence, ripped from other worlds or times in our own Rayclast. I think this would be rad and a good send-off to this age of the world. Okay, alright, that's it in its entirety. The craziest theory for 3.24 I could think of during my flight to LA. That just might actually work out in some way. Do you think any of it, in any facet, might be true? Tell me how wrong or right I am in the comments. Here's a tremendous thanks to everyone who watched this video to the end, and a massive thank you to each and every one of my supporters. I'm talking to you patrons, members, and subs. You can join the community for free by subscribing to this channel and joining our Discord, or get me to make more content by clicking on one of my support links in the description. Anyways, that's all for this one. Tala Moana, Exiles.